Hi Clark Middle School staff, this is Michelle Clary, your assistant principal. In today's training, we're going to be covering becoming more familiar with FERPA. The purpose of the FERPA training is to be compliant with upholding the law, review our district policies, and help prevent complaints. So let's get started. We're going to start with a pre-test. On your PowerPoint handout slide, keep track of your answers. There's only 3 questions to the pre-test. Question number 1, true or false? You can put old student records in the trash can, true or false. Question 2, true or false? If a school denies access to student records to a parent of a student under the age of 18, that is a FERPA violation, true or false? Question 3. If a teacher witnesses an incident such as a fight on school's grounds, he can talk to other parents or the press about what he saw. Is that true or false? Okay, got your answers? Let's get started. What is FERPA? FERPA stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. FERPA is a federal law that protects the privacy of student education records and the personally identifiable information contained therein, maintained by educational agencies or institutes or by parties acting for agencies or institutes. Personally identifiable information. It's easy for me to say. What is that? It's a student's name, address, family names, address, family members. It could be a personal identifier such as a social security number or a student number. It could be an email address. It could be a photo or a video. It could be a list of personal characteristics or other information that would make the student's identity easily traceable. Indirect identifiers such as the student's date or place of birth or a mother's maiden name. FERPA prohibits release of education records without consent of the parent or the eligible student. If a student is under the age of 18, you would need consent from the parents. If the student is 18, or older, that would make them the eligible student to request their own records. Schools and an educational agency are responsible for the data of their students, and no one should have access to that besides parents, students, and the third-party service providers. Third-party service providers should act as an extension of the school with FERPA and uphold all policies and laws. What is not a part of an educational record? Law enforcement or campus security records created and maintained solely for law enforcement. A teacher's private records made during the course of teaching meant for a teacher's private use as a memory aid. That's not a part of an educational record. Employment records, alumni records, and grades on a peer-graded papers before they are recorded. Those are all items that are not a part of an educational record. How does FERPA impact my classroom? Teachers need to be careful with the technology you use in your lessons. You need to keep any student data you have secure, such as 504 plans and IEPs. Those need to be in a secured area. Another thing that it may impact is responding to access requests. When you get a phone message from a person saying that they are the father of a certain student, you need to log into Skyward and double check that student's record, making sure that that name is on that list as a safe person that you can be in communication with about that student's information. Destruction of records. You can't just dump an old record into the trash can. Any material that has students' information on it needs to go to the desktop shredder, or it needs to go to the office to the shredding bin for the company to shred. With data destruction, FERPA doesn't have any direct guidance on how items should be destroyed. For deleting electronic files, our IT department will maintain that. And as I stated before, we have a desk shredder and we have the big bin of shred materials located in the office for us to use. So data destruction encompasses a wide variety of media, including electronic and paper. Third-party agreements, those would be like with IXL or Reading A to Z or iReady. In our contracts, we have a specific purpose of what it's provided for and how the student's personal information will be backed up with temporary files or other storage. And again, they have to be upholding all policies and laws just as if they were the school themselves. How does FERPA impact the school? Look up, look around. Do you see those surveillance cameras? The district has policies describing the purpose of the surveillance cameras and the parameters for the use. We're going to talk about that in our small groups when we dive a little deeper. Installing the cameras only in areas where individuals have low expectations of privacy, which we are in compliance with, and notifying the school community of the surveillance cameras via policies, check, we got that, handbooks, yes, website, newsletters, and signage, which we are meeting all of those requirements. And we need to develop protocols of requests for disclosure, including the handling of the requests for copies from parents, law enforcement, media, or other third parties that may want to see our surveillance video coverage. Are there any exceptions to FERPA? Yes, there are. One exception is when we need to provide student information when there is a health or safety of the students or other person in connection with an emergency. That would be an exception in an emergency. Number 2 is for the homeland security. This mainly takes place at universities where they need to keep track of the dates of a student visa system. 3, the school district will be in compliance with any judicial order or lawfully issued subpoena. And 4, we will be compliant with when there is a student that may be engaged in a crime of violence or a sex offense that we need to give information about or they need to give us information about. Let's wrap it up. Let's take the post test. Question 1, true or false? Can you put an old student record in the trash can? False. If you got false, you got a star. You got that correct. True or false? If a school denies access to student records to a parent of a student under the age of 18, is that a FERPA violation? True. That is. It is a violation. We can't deny parents their students' educational records. Question 3, true or false? If a teacher witnesses an incident such as a fight on school grounds, he can talk to other parents or the press about what he saw. Unfortunately, that's true, and in our scenarios, we're going to dig a little bit deeper about who should be talking to the press and who represents our district when talking to the press. So we're going to get in our groups, we're going to use these references that are listed, and we're going to take a look at 4 more scenarios so everybody gets the correct answers of how FERPA works at Clark Middle School. Thanks for listening to the introduction video on FERPA, and as always, it's a great day to be a brave.